Hello and welcome back to our EQ Nexus YouTube channel. Today I'm interviewing Cass so we can learn a little bit more about what has brought Cass here to EQ Nexus to entering into this partnership with me and starting this business together. We want to find out a little bit more about Cass and why she loves EQ.
Yes.
And yeah, so Cass is a psychologist who for some reason is going blurry in this video, in and out. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't notice that. I wasn't looking. I'll pay more attention.
So she's a psychologist, has spent many, many years working in schools, a different variety of schools, and supervising adults in psychology as well.
Yeah.
And Cass and I came across our shared passion for EQ through our boys. So Cass has two teenage boys, and so do I. And that has been a connection for us. So, Cass, can I start with asking you?
Yeah.
When did you first become curious about emotional intelligence or first learn about it?
Great question. So, being a psychologist, I obviously studied psychology. So I went straight from high school into a undergrad in psych, and I moved to Sydney to do this degree because back in those days, again, over 20 years ago, anything locally wasn't an accredited psych course. So I had to travel away to Sydney to get this. And doing my psych degree was the first time I was exposed to the idea of positive psychology, which is a bit of a birth story of emotional intelligence as well. It's about how do we use the theory and the understanding and knowledge of psychology as a discipline in a really positive way. Often prior to that, psychology has been more pathology. It's always been about mental illness, mental ill health. And back in those days, positive psychology was this new sort of phase of using psychology. And so I really jumped on that and I was really, really curious. And it was in a lot of my learnings at university that I became super interested in working with children and developing positive psychology skills for children. And that was always a big, big passion of mine. And doing your own psych degree, you obviously have a lot of self-reflection on your own personal journey of life. There is no way you can get through a psych degree without going, okay, maybe that's why I have that pattern or that behavior, or that's why I respond in this way. And you start to do, a lot of self-reflection. And I recall moments then where I looked back and was really grateful for certain role models in my life, like my mum and my nan, who I remember intentionally sitting me down and coaching me through big emotions and experiences. And I recall feeling quite grateful that I had that opportunity as a young person growing up, because I know, as Heidi said in hers, that there's this idea of a lot of adversity out there, and it only takes one adult to be a really good EQ coach or provide you with those emotional intelligence skills to get you through your adversities. And so I recall very clearly words of wisdom that might come from my mum and my nan and other beautiful adults around me at that time, which really enhanced my self-awareness of how I need to respond in situations and making sure that all of my emotions were real and valid, and that idea of permission to feel. And then I remember jumping into private practice, and that happened really early on in my career. After my registration and my internship, I took 12 months off to do some traveling and to just do some final exploring, and I settled back here in Albury-Wodonga, and with the encouragement of local psychs, I did enter private practice, and still quite young back then, so it was very daunting. And this relates a lot to my awareness of where Heidi worked at the time, or maybe it was just before you had started, I'm not quite sure. But one of my clients that I was working with at the time, she was a out-of-home client, so she didn't live with her parents and come from quite adversity background. And in our first sessions when working with kids as a psychologist, you kind of start with EQ skills. You start with emotional vocabulary. You get to kind of know how well does this client or this young person understand the variety of different emotions and where are they felt in your body. And you do a lot of psychoeducation, which to me is emotional intelligence skills. And I started to do that with this client, and she was like, oh, I already know all this. We do this at my school. And I was like, what is this school you go to? And I want to know more about it. And it turns out it was where Heidi worked at. And that was my first hook to this idea that EQ can be taught to everyone. And my thought even back then was, I wish for a world where every child is given the opportunity to learn these EQ skills, that they don't have to come to therapy. To me, EQ and what we're wanting to offer here is like literally it's therapy outside the therapy room. It's something that should be accessible and taught to every human as a preventer and as this opportunity to be able to live your best life. And I think that's been one, my early curiosities, but two, this driving passion to go, I don't want to do one-to-one EQ kind of work when it could be done to all.
Yeah. I love that so much. I'm just wondering, listening to you talk, spoke about your nan and your mum. What are your thoughts around the importance of adults in terms of role models? I know we've talked about, both you and I in our interviews, explicit teaching of these skills, things like emotional literacy, but how important is it for adults to be emotionally intelligent in the kids' world?
Yeah, absolutely. It is so pivotal. And in, I guess, my own personal experience, I've been fortunate enough to have that. And it doesn't mean, my mum or nan were perfect all the time either. Like, I loved seeing their faults along the way and then modeling when they weren't their best self. So I feel that in the work that I do as a psychologist as well, I often heavily prefer to work with the parent to enhance their emotional intelligence skills and educate them on what's the vocabulary, how to do regulation, all of those EQ skills that we would teach a young person. It has to be taught to the parent first. And the evidence in psychology shows us that. Like, there is no data out there that says one-to-one child intervention is better than parent intervention. It's always the other way around. If we can enhance the caregiver, the adult, the parent, then the well-being and the psychological growth and development of our young people is enhanced 10 times more. So it is pivotal, our EQ adult work that we want to offer.
And I sometimes, what's that quote that's around that kids may not listen to what you say, but they will watch what you do. And I think about that as well in terms of, it's not necessarily what we're standing there and telling them to do. It's what they see us do, whether you're a parent or a teacher or a sports coach or an uncle or anybody in the world of a child.
Absolutely. I say that whole monkey see, monkey do. It's quite simple that like if kids are watching adults regulate, they're going to go, oh, that's how I do that. If they're watching an adult be dysregulated and respond quite volatile in their emotional response, they're going to learn either that's how I do it or the extreme opposite is they avoid the emotion completely. And there's no middle ground there of learning and the nuance of that emotional response.
Definitely. I'm putting you on the spot here, but just wondering, is there a particular EQ tip or tool or strategy that you rely on?
That I rely
that
on.
you use frequently? Maybe if you can think about something that really presses your buttons or gets under your skin and you're more likely to react impulsively. What's a strategy that you use to help you to regulate and to pause?
It's a good one. And I think one of my, over my years of life experience as well, and I think that's always comes into it, but one of my biggest triggers is a feeling of insecurity in relationship. So very early on in early relationships, that was a pattern of response that if I picked up on a partner or a friend responding in a certain way that put the relationship at risk, and then I felt very insecure. And I would respond in really unkind ways. And I would also respond with extreme avoidance of that. So now when I notice that pattern come up, I have to name it. So that's been my EQ tip, is like just to name the story that's happening and go, oh, I know this story. I know this insecure story. I've been there before. So I found that relating and naming a story being super powerful, and then having a what do I do when I've named the story? And for me, that is literally it is still a bit of removal, taking myself away for a few minutes, but I don't need a long time now. Once I've named the story that's happening, I can go, okay, Cassie, yep, this is that story. Breathe my way through it, regulate my body and my physical response, and then I can go back to the person and ask for clarity around, okay, this is what's happening in my mind. This is how I'm feeling. Can you tell me your point of view?
I love that. Because a whole pillar of what we do in our model of teaching emotional intelligence from 6 seconds, a whole pillar is called Know Yourself.
Yes.
So it really is about really understanding why you do what you do.
Yeah.
Which links back to my video about being curious about why people behave the way they behave.
Correct.
And tapping into understanding why we behave the way we behave. So I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Is there anything else you would like to tell our followers before we say goodbye?
I just want to thank everyone for joining and having a listen to our little ramble. It is really important to know that we are quite credible in what we have to share on this EQ Nexus channel. As an educator and a psychologist, and as qualified EQ practitioners, thanks to 6 seconds, we are going to enjoy sharing with you worlds of emotional intelligence wisdom along the way. So if you guys have any questions or anything else you want to add, please do. But yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.